So tonight we've got Brian Haferkamp.
Haferkamp.
Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yep, it's perfect.
And he's going to demo and show us a couple of the games that he has out. I think I read somewhere where Sabermetrics meets Dyson board.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. So Brian, I'm just going to open it up for you.
Okay. I'm going to try to do maybe what's never been done here. I'm going to try to do a presentation. I'm looking on my computer right now. And then I'm also logged in. I don't know if you can see that I'm logged in twice. I'm logged in on my phone as well. So I'm going to do a little overhead and see if I can play the game here on the table instead of showing it online. I know a lot of the stuff you've done so far has been digital, but I really think there's a lot of, just to be able to show you some different game parts and components and things like that that come with the game, and a little bit about the history of the games and how they come along. Am I okay to share?
Let me just set you to do that.
I've got just a little, a brief slideshow just to kind of walk through so you can see screenshots really of some of the games that I've done. Just a little introduction. I see a share screen button.
Me sharing screen. Nobody wants to see what I got going.
Okay.
There you go. You should be able to share now.
Okay. I am able to. Everybody see the slideshow okay?
Yeah.
Looking good.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah. All right. So on-base baseball is the game that I'm really going to sort of focus in on today. I also have another one called On-Base Advanced, which is really just an advanced version. Really, it's an entirely different game. It's not just sort of a step up with different rules. It's actually really an entirely different game. So it really warrants its own section, I guess. A little bit about me. I am 45. I live outside of Chicago and been living here in Chicago since 2002 or so, off and on, but mostly more on than off. And grew up in Texas. So I grew up in Central Texas. Did not grow up a Rangers fan or an Astros fan, but a Braves fan. So you can imagine. And wasn't a Cowboy fan either. So it was a rough ride as a kid. I got into web development, sort of self-taught as a web developer. That's my job, my day job. And self-taught myself in college. I began doing my own freelance stuff after moving back to the U.S. from Korea back in 2011. I was creating several sort of web applications. I was kind of getting into building some things like that from 2015 to 19. And then in 2019, well, I'd always had this sort of idea in my head to create a web-based game. And so as my skills were sort of growing, I felt like, okay, well, maybe I'm at the point where I can begin to think about doing this. I've played Out of the Park since 2001-ish. I was in Out of the Park 4 and really loved the game. I love the GM games a lot. And just wanted to sort of create an experience on the web that you could open up on a phone or any device and be able to play. These are the tabletop games. I'll talk a little bit about how I made the leap from the digital to the tabletop when I was talking about On Base. But I released On Base Baseball in 2020, On Base Advanced about 6 months later or a year later, and then started kind of releasing games right on top of each other, really. There's a game called Quick Play Baseball that I just released again. The original was 2021, but it actually is a quick play baseball game, but you play out every half inning. So it's like one card flip per half inning. So it's some really interesting things with that game. It's been really successful. A lot of folks have, if you've been on Facebook, maybe you've come across it. There's a game that's sort of unpublished called Yaya Tabletop Baseball, which was based on Yahtzee rolls. So you roll like 5 or 6 dice and similar rules. And that was a lot of fun. I sort of give that one away whenever I give any promotional kind of things, but it's not for sale. My first non-baseball game was up-tempo basketball. It's kind of a medium play basketball game. You can play it in 30 minutes to 45 minutes usually, and a full game with shot. It's play by play, within the game, and you can keep some stats, basic stats for the players. Quick pitch baseball is another baseball game I released last year and last November. And quick pitch is an interesting one because I was really trying to create a 50-50 game, really trying hard. None of my games are 50-50 games, and so I really was trying hard. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make like a traditional game. And then as I got more into it and I started reading and doing a lot more research, I kind of came to the realization I'm not sure how much the batter controls at all in the at bat. How much of the at bat does the pitcher control? How much does the batter control? And that's sort of a big question. And one of the questions I think that in sabermetrics we're really trying to answer and get to parsing that relationship out. And so quick pitch is actually entirely the pitcher controls everything in the at bat as far as up to the ball getting to the plate. So it's sort of turns traditional dice baseball games up on its head, and then it's got some really unique sort of fielding, unique fielding system to it as well. A lot of fun, but really just an experiment. Honestly, it's free, and you can get over 1,000. I mean, every player that played in I have 3 seasons: 75, 82, and 86. So you can get any of those seasons, download them free. Every player's carded, and you also get some cool little manager cards with their tendencies and things like that. So it was a fun game to make, and really just kind of, like I said, flipping tabletop baseball on its head in some ways to see, does it hold water that the pitcher actually controls the at bat. The game of dice baseball is a much more traditional game. I sort of went back to the same roots that I did with on base, and I've released. I think you can get maybe almost 20 seasons of the game of dice baseball. It's got a really interesting conditional system, so that when you some of the results, if the condition of the player statistics meets or exceeds that statistical barrier, then you get that result. Otherwise, there's sort of a default result. And so the idea is that there's a default player out there sort of in the middle, and then your edge cases, either great or terrible, are accounted for by these conditionals. It's kind of an interesting thing. And the really cool part about it is I've got like hundreds, almost 100 rare or unusual types of plays. So you kind of get into these really interesting situations with rare plays. Then I released Triple Threat Basketball this year, which was um, a different take. It's like the greatest 75 basketball players of all time. And again, another play-by-play basketball game, but a little bit of a different take. Very visual, colorful, and a little bit different than what's out on the market. And then No Huddle Football should be coming out this summer. I'll be continuing to work on that. That's sort of a medium, fast play game, and I'll talk a little bit about why I keep saying medium and fast. That's sort of a design philosophy of mine. So you can see just since 2021, I've put out several games. All of these except for No Huddle Football and Yaya are available to buy. So these are actually in production. Like I said, I started out as trying to create a digital game, and this is actually the game that I was trying to create. It's a game that's based on war. It's all in the browser, and I completed it in 2021 or 2020. You can actually play it. The idea behind the game was that you could input and play any players from across history together. You could put them in the same lineup. You could have a game of 9 Babe Ruths batting against 9 Jimmy Foxes, or whatever you want, Derek Jeters. You could, or Babe Ruth from 27 against Babe Ruth from 1930. So you could actually play these guys against each other in these sort of crazy scenarios or what if scenarios, just by using their war. It's got a nice little game log that just sort of keeps track of the action, and everything is fully customizable. You can see here I put in customized team names and different players. You could play your softball league in here if you really wanted to. I ran into some real limitations with war. I like to call it uh, the Ozzie Smith problem, is that he's a high war player, but his offense is not good. So you can't just base really good offensive players on their WAR, and sort of found that out the hard way as I released this, and started to get some feedback. And guys were like, "Well, Ozzie Smith is not a great hitter, but he's hitting like Babe Ruth, so you can't really have him as a high WAR type of player." So eventually, I broke it out, and you'll see in on base that I broke it out into batting runs and for batters, and then sort of separated that out into four different columns. This is another game that I made. There are only four teams available for it, but this was sort of an entry into a little bit more like a digital diamond type of game, sort of moving in that direction. But it's called Baseball Manager, really focusing on managing through the game. It's an interesting little pitching fatigue meter that changes. It goes down by two every time the pitcher makes a pitch, and then it sort of goes from white to orange if he's starting to get tired, to red if he's exhausted, and then that begins to affect his performance. And then you have these nice little fly out type of menus for changing relievers and changing batters and things like that. I have an online dice baseball game where you can actually, it's a little helper type of application where you can play all of these different dice baseball games. So these were sort of the beginning of on base baseball, where I went back to the roots of old school dice baseball, 1910s, 20s, even into the pre 1900s. There were dice baseball games. And so I found this article with a lot of research done on that. And then I took a lot of these results straight from that article, put them on here, and you can actually, choose which game you want to play. And then each of these is sort of clickable elements on here, and you can just kind of keep track of it. But it does play on your phone, plays on the desktop, plays on any web-enabled device, which was a lot of fun to make. I occasionally do a video, just a one-off video playing some of those dice baseball games. This is my newest one. This is a work in progress, and this is about as far as I've gotten with it here. But definitely going more toward the out of the park, uh, digital diamond type of game, pursue the pennant, that type of thing. And it's going to be totally web based. This is about as far as I've gotten. So I'm still working on the different components and the parts of the game, but you can keep a score if someone scores, and you've got a nice little um, it'll be a more extensive sort of play by play up there. So those are the digital games that I've been working on. As far as tabletop games, when I was looking for a game engine for the first original digital game that I made, I was like, well, I need some sort of game engine to be able to run this thing. So I started doing research online. Didn't know anything about how people did that with I've never built a video game before. And so as I was doing research, I came across several different mechanisms that you can use for doing a game engine, and one of them was dice. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so I never realized that there was this whole world of tabletop baseball. I didn't grow up with it. We were always playing baseball. Never had anybody that showed me that there was tabletop baseball. So on base sort of came out of that dice roll sort of idea. So dice rolls are actually a part of that original war based game. And then I thought, well, there's this whole community out there. Maybe they would want an actual cards and dice version. It wouldn't be hard to convert this to a tabletop game. So I did that, and that became on base baseball, and it sort of grew. And as I released it out to the community played it more, and gave me a lot of good feedback, and so that's grown over the last few years. Also, like I said, I have quick play baseball, on base advance, the game of dice baseball, and quick pitch. So these are sort of my baseball franchises that are actually available for purchase and release. These are either unpublished games or works in progress. There's this sort of classic dice baseball game here, and that's my life. It's full of these fragments and pieces of games that actually sometimes make it back into another game. They sort of get left by the wayside or don't work. And this one is based on more of a risk style head to head, and would probably be a really great sit down with another person on the other side of the table, because you would each be able to participate just like you do in risk in the process. And then this one is more of a classic sort of strat style, where everything is splits. So each of these with the bases empty or with men on or scoring position, there's a left and right rating for each player. And then you would decide, you know, 1, 2, 3 goes to the pitcher, 4, 5, 6 goes to the batter card, and then you would roll 2d6 dice, add them together, and then get your result, depending on, you know, what is the situation on the base paths. This one's called Dog Days Baseball. It's very, it's not complex, but it's got a lot of moving parts to it. I've had a lot of fun playing with that over the years. And then this was what Yaya Tabletop Baseball looks like. You can see it's got the little charts here that tell you exactly what's going to happen as far as what the play is and what happens on the play. It's got a little thing when you hit a chance, or that's how you get a home run, that kind of stuff. And then some other sports. This is what up-tempo basketball looks like. So it looks like these cards here with the team cards, and then you have the players for each team. You basically cut along the line here, and then cut out sort of a horizontal card. And then this is triple threat. You can see it's a lot more visual than a lot of games that are on the market. So very, very interesting game to play. And then these are games. This is the football game that's coming out. It's called No Huddle, and there's actually 3 or 4 different, well, maybe two different gameplay modes or options here. And then this is a golf game I've been kicking around and kind of playing with a little bit, which is very abstracted compared to a lot of tabletop golf games. But I think it plays kind of interestingly and definitely plays a lot faster than a lot of other games. Do you have anybody have any questions at this point about those things? Just want to give everybody a chance to chime in and ask questions if you have them.
Steve here, if I may.
Yes.
And Brian, thanks for your presentation. I guess a couple of things. Are you going to have these games with you at the SABR convention in Chicago?
I don't know if I'm going to the SABR convention, but it sounds like I got invited. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. When is that coming up?
July 5th to 9th, the
July
Palmer
5th to
House
9th.
in Chicago.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
And my other question would be, I'm in other leagues like the Great American Fantasy League with cards and random numbers, and I'm also in Stratomatic, which I have a lot of reservations about. And I'm wondering if you or others on the call here could comment on that, because it does seem like there's a lot of stuff out there, and that, you know, maybe one of the things that this committee could do would be to sort of maybe evaluate the different games out there and then have some cross conversation about what's good, what's not good, you know, stuff like that, depending on what people want to do.
Yeah, I'll leave that to others to answer. As a designer, I think all my games are good. So I'm not sure. And I honestly, I've never played Strat. I've never played APBA. So I don't know if that makes me lose my street cred or not. But like I said, I didn't grow up playing tabletop games. But I love the puzzle. I love the puzzle of figuring out how to translate sports to the tabletop. It's really a fun sort of hobby for me. So does anybody else have any ideas about his question about the games or comparing them or some sort of way of reviewing?
I'll try and answer that. I don't think we really, as a committee, want to get in and say, this is the best game, or that's the best game, or this is better than that. I don't think that's fair to the designers and the players in that. You know, if based on some of the stuff John said in the past, if we were to say Stratomatic was horrible, I think he'd drive from New Jersey and beat me up because he loves it so much.
Yes.
But you know, I don't think that's fair to do as a committee. I think we support anybody and everything. The one thing I'm looking at what Brian does. I don't know when you sleep with everything you got going on there. I mean, I just think that's incredible, everything you got going on. But yeah, I don't really think that's really for this committee, because before Derek and I took took over last year, I mean, some of the stuff we learned in the past was the direction of the committee went one way. And I think it alienated a lot of people. So that's why we've been open to just about anything and everything at this point, and trying to support, our blog page or WordPress page. I mean, it's getting a lot of articles. I had put in to present this year and wasn't selected, and was just about ready to throw my stuff away. And Derek's kind of talked me into, no, finish it and write it up and we'll put it there. So I have been doing a little bit of work on it this week, but I'll open it up to any other questions or comments.
I would kind of agree. I've been playing Strat since 1964. So, and it's a game I grew up with. I think it still is a great game. But one thing I think being involved in the SABR Games Committee has opened my eyes up about being exposed to different games. And I've played now 9 different games this year, and I found 4 or 5 really good games. And one of the things I'm interested in is trying things that come from a different angle, 50-50 versus pitcher initiated versus, there's just a lot of different engines out there, but also statistically accurate, I think, as accurate as a game can be. So I don't know if I could, I wouldn't want to say this game stinks or something, but I think different games fit different people's personalities. Some people want to play a quick game. Some people want to get into as much detail as possible, or sometimes you want both and you're just in a different mood. But I think the exposure to new games and talking about games in general, about what a game offers, is kind of a composite, and you'll decide for yourself, well, that doesn't sound like me. But I think there's a lot of games out there that I really didn't know about, and I discovered in the last year. And Memorial Day weekend, I got 3 new games. I've been playing Payoff Pitch for the first time, and it's a great engine. Pitch or run, it's kind of a really interesting engine. But that's where I'm at. I agree that we can evaluate games and talk about what makes them tick, and then let everybody else kind of make their own mind up.
Yeah,
I wanted to comment further.
Yeah.
My comments should not be taken that I was disparaging anybody's games. It's just a matter of, it's good for us to know what's out there. What are people doing? I know I was involved in this committee from the beginning, and so I think that was my intent to share ideas and get people thinking about this. And so that isn't to say one game is better than another, but so I just wanted to clarify that.
I think, Steve,
Steve, I would agree with that. And I guess the only other, my other thought was, just to kind of piggyback on that, on this train of thought, is to encourage folks to review, some of the games that you're playing on our, and share those comments on our website, and not again, not that this is good or bad, but this is, this is a game I can play in 10 minutes. This game takes me 40 minutes. This game is, more sabermetrically oriented, and so on and so forth. So that would be, my thought is just to, hey, if you've played something and, go ahead and share with the community, I just tried this game, here's what it's like. We do have a couple comments in the chat, so I'll mention that Ken asked, this is towards Brian, where do you fall on playability versus realism? As a designer, could you have too much of one or the other, and how do you find the balance?
Yeah, that's a big question. You know what? I always fall on the side of having fun. So I work for a living. I still work, and I do computer work, and so everything is a little bit tedious. So when I come to play a game, and part of this is growing up playing video games and stuff like that too, is when I played a game, it was for fun. I don't have a sort of a job where I don't have to think, like where it's just all my hands and that kind of thing, and then I need something as an outlet to think whenever I get home or as a hobby. If if I were to do a game like that, it would drive me nuts because, in fact, I can't stick with those games very long because I'm mentally just kind of exhausted every day dealing with people or dealing with the computer stuff. And so for me, I just want to have a game that I can get into quickly, that I can have fun with. I have kids, who are preteen, teen, and so life is very busy and very full. And so I also need a game if I'm going to play that I can get into. In just a few minutes, I can get into it, set it up, play it within an hour, hour and a half, and just have a nice quick game that I can get into, not something that's going to take a long time. So for me, I realized early on that you do have to sacrifice one or the other. Um, every gamer wants everything. They want it to be super realistic, and then they want it to be have this flow, and you never have to figure anything out, and all these different things. But you realize there's a point of sort of no return that you get into a game where you start to have to work at it, when you're playing a tabletop game, especially. And once you get into that area, you can get into a lot of realism, but it's also a lot more taxing on your mind. It's a lot more taxing on your time. And like the gentleman was saying just a minute ago, there's something for everybody. So I feel like as I've gotten into it, there are not that many people who want something different, but there are a group of people who want something different than what's on the market. They don't just want to play Strat or APA. And so there is a lot of room, and you may not have as big a market. You can't make a living at it, like APA and Strat have for a long time. But you can be a niche. You can have a group of people who enjoy playing your games and they enjoy sort of what your game brings. That's a little bit different. Hopefully
Got
that
two more questions in the chat here. Tom asked if you can please define 50-50 and what other types are there of design as far as hitter versus pitcher. And Jeremy asked, where can we find your games? Is there a central location for all of your games?
I wish there was. That's my next project, is to create one single website. This started as one thing, and it's kind of exploded and blown up. To your to your question about when, usually from about 4 to 7 in the morning. So if you want to do things extra, you got to make time, right? So a lot of times it's just waking up early and getting it done. OnBaseBaseball.com is a good place. That's got 3 of my games, and then you could probably just search for the other games. So Quick Pitch, QuickPitchGame.com, thegameofdicebaseball.com. Each of them has sort of their own website and their own ordering system, shopping system, but they're all using the same platform. So you'll be able to sort of move between them and find out. Up-tempo basketball is one. You can also catch up with me on some of the Facebook groups. So On Base Baseball has its own Facebook group, and you can always reach out to me there. I'm always on there. And the Sports Simulations and Replays group, that's usually a place where I found my people in a lot of ways who appreciate what I'm doing as far as gameplay. As far as in terms of the definitions, a 50-50 game is when you roll, let's say you roll a 6-sided dice, and if the result is 1 through 3, then you go to one card. Usually in baseball, it's to the batter or the pitcher card. And then if you roll 4 through 6, then it goes to the other card, whether it's the batter or the pitcher. And then from there, you read off the results.
You mentioned the importance of having fun.
That's just a way of deciding who controls the at bat. Really, that's what we're looking at as far as the pitcher batter interaction, is who gets control of determining the outcome of the play. And so I was telling you, a quick pitch baseball, the outcome of the play, at least until you get to the batter actually hitting the ball, it comes all from the pitcher, which I'm not sure there are any games crazy enough to do that, because I don't think anybody believes that that's true. But that's the way that I designed it. And then a lot of games, newer games, they're sort of, you might start on the pitcher card and then you might end on the batter card, and there's sort of an interplay. And there's a little bit of a space there. Some are hardcore off the pitcher card, some are hardcore off the batter card, and then there's sort of a mixture of both with those games. Those are the only ones that I know about. I don't know if anybody else knows about any other game engines to make that happen.
You mentioned the importance of having fun, and I could not agree more with you. I play ABBA, got back to it a couple of years ago, or during the pandemic, after about 40 years away. And I have to think, in my job, I'm a writer. So for me, playing ABBA is an escape from the real world for an hour or two. If I play 2 games a night, 2.5 hours, if it stressed me out, it would defeat the whole purpose to begin with. It's just nice to let go of the real world and indulge in something like that and imagine what these guys are doing on the field. I've got the set of cards I use is for the Batch 3 set. They're all-time greats based on their best season. And just imagining what these guys would do with this was happening for real. It's just an escape for me, and I'm sure other people, maybe some of you, look at it the same way. You just get away from the real world for a while.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that is so strong about the APA connection, or guys who've been playing, or ladies who've been playing APA for 40 or 50 years, is that by heart a lot of what it says in the book, right? So
yep,
the game has gotten out of the way for you. So now the game that you're playing, APBA baseball, is not there anymore. So now because you've memorized the game, now you can actually play baseball on the tabletop. And so that actually is one of my design philosophies, is to try to get the game out of the way. So I don't want you to have to think too much, because then if I do that, if I make it simple enough and easy enough to play, but also incorporate, in this case, sabermetric statistics, which helps to sort of melt everything down to one number. So I can bring in lots of different abilities or attributes to one number and then focus on that one number. It will actually bring you out to a pretty statistically accurate game. So sabermetrics actually helps with sort of helping to get the game out of the way. It cuts down on the number of rolls. It cuts down on the number of thinking that you have to do, or adding or subtracting, or going here and going there in this chart and that chart. So I've tried to do everything that I can to make the game feel like baseball or basketball or football or whatever it is, and still and get the game out of the way, right? And somebody was asking about that balance between realism and fun, or accuracy. That's the line that you're always dancing with and playing with. And I feel like whenever I'm designing a game, I get to that line, and once I feel like I've crossed it and I think I'm not having very much fun anymore, I either need to change the game, or I need to just sort of stop right there and say, okay, that's as far as the game can go, and this one is just focusing on this particular aspect of the sport. So.
Is it harder to do with a sport like basketball or a sport like hockey, even though you haven't done hockey, because of the way a basketball game flows? Basketball's always been tough for anybody to reproduce in a board game.
Yeah, I think that the problem is, if you get too accurate, you start to lose it on those games. Like if you start to have to decide every time someone touches a ball that you have to make a bunch of decisions, you just have to cut corners with some of those free motion type games. Baseball, there's 1 against 1, and that's really easy to do. And as I've thought about football, it's super difficult to get past just teams against teams, because you have 22 players on the field at any moment. They're all engaged one-on-one with each other, but then they're engaged in this bigger play that they're also running. And the guy from out here can have an effect on the guy over here. So it's almost impossible to have any sort of individual player participate in the outcome of the play, and then to have all those individuals participate together in a collective sort of choreographed way that means something to the play, and not have it take days to be able to play. I think if you want that sort of realism, I really encourage people to play video games. I mean, I think that that's really the strength of a video game, is that you have the computer controlling almost every single player in a more realistic way that you can't really do on the tabletop very well. without making the game last for hours and hours or be kind of tedious in the way that you have to play it. So for me, I've cut a lot of corners, and I've tried to major on what tabletop games do well, because they're different than video games or console games or computer games. And so let those games do what they do well, but let the tabletop do what the tabletop does well. And so I've really tried to just sort of major on those things, and it's turned out well. I think they're fun games, but I'm not sure that you would say they're the deepest games as far as like I get to decide everything kind of deal. Yeah.
I did place the websites that you mentioned into the chat window if anyone's interested, and I'll include that on our saberbaseballgaming.com on our events page once we post this video. So we'll share it there as well. I think for the sake of time, if you want to go into the demo part of this, and then we'll have another Q&A at the end if we have some time.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll focus on base and just do the one game. And so this is sort of the flagship game. Let me stop the video here, and I will try to start the video elsewhere. So let me see. So I'm trying to do this on the fly here. That's not it. I thought I could get it going the other way. Sorry about that. Okay, and can everybody see the camera okay? Let's flip it. Okay, for some reason it's not letting me flip my camera here. So let me see. Sorry about that. All right, well that is not one that I thought was going to happen. The thing I'm trying to do is to just flip my camera so that it shows the other way, because I don't think it's going to work this way. If I do that, maybe it'll work. Okay. Seeing as I can't flip it, so let me get creative, right?
Yeah, it looks like it'll work.
Okay. All right, so hopefully everyone can see okay. And now on base comes with a couple of different score sheets. These are ones that I've created myself. So we have one that's based off of just at-bats, and you kind of go, you have 7 at-bats, and then you have sort of a traditional inning by inning score sheet as well. And I've also input some of these, there are different values. There's a batting, defense, and speed value that needs to be filled in for each player so that you can use it. The batting is based off of batting runs, which is league and park adjusted weighted runs above average, which is sort of a major statistic in sabermetrics. The defense rating is based off of Fangraph's defense rating, which takes into account lots of different types of defensive ratings. Speed is based off of Bill James' speed rating, which is something he developed apparently back in the 70s or 80s, a long time ago, that nobody ever really uses anymore because they have BSR and some other different speed or base running ratings. But I like to use it because it is accurate and it's easy to incorporate into the game. So those are the main ratings. You can see here I've got them filled in, and this will be a game between the Braves and Astros. This is game 6 of the 2021 World Series, so it's the clinching game. And let's get this up a little bit. This is the heart of on-base baseball. It is the game engine chart. On this side is pitchers, and on this side is hitters. Originally, the game looked like this. This is what cards looked like back in the day. You can see the cards here. It's got the player name. This is from the 1970s. It's not a champion set, it's a World Series set. So you have every World Series matchup from the 1970s, so 70 to 79, that you can purchase. And so you got 20 teams that are the best. You know, they were the 2 at the end those years. So some really great teams. And you can see up here, these are just statistics. These are actually the stats that you're going to use to play the game. And then these stats down here, or these values down here, are the actual outcomes. So whenever you roll 2 d6 dice, you're going to use 1 die for the 10s and 1 die for the 1s, and you have an 11 to 66. It's fewer. It's only 21 results as opposed to APA, which is more than that. But it's really built around some similar ideas and similar concepts as APA. So you have your actual. These are based off of Fred Lynn's numbers. Some of these are sort of switched around. They're based on the player's batting runs. And then you can see he's got a -10 defense, Jim Rice does, and a speed of 5. 5 would be average. It's 5 out of 10. Bernie Carbo, 20.6 batting runs in 1975, defense of -5, and then a speed of 3.7. And you can see he played left and right field. And then you would have his specific outcomes here as well, along with sabermetric numbers. I don't know if you can see those sabermetric numbers very well, but those are Bernie Carbo's sabermetric numbers. Don't know how many people look at that, but weighted runs created plus a 145. So a really good year for him. And so those are the original cards. The newest cards I revamped a little bit to look like this. This is from the 1998 set, and this would be A-Rod with the Mariners. And you can see all the stats and everything are over here, but I've sort of pulled out the batting, defense, and speed ratings so that they're a little bit easier to see, as opposed to here where they're just kind of small up in here. It was a little bit more difficult to see them, and I put some green, orange, and blue in there to sort of differentiate them from the rest as well. But you can see King Griffey's numbers here, 977 OPS, a 6.6 WAR, and a 41 on his batting runs is very high, very high. So those are, if you played with cards, that's how you would play. And I've also recently started creating roster sheet sets. So with the roster sheet sets, what it does is it's less printing, and it's also in a PDF, so it would be a lot easier to be able to play off of it. And really all you need to do is be able to transfer the numbers from a roster sheet over to the score sheet that you're using, or whatever digital application that you're using. So every player, this is the 1986 Mets here. So you can see Keith Hernandez, 35 batting runs, basically a 0 defense and a 2.5 speed. So we have every player rated for all three of the values that you're going to use, plus all of the same statistics that you would find. It's all the same stats that you would find on the card up here. It's just in a sort of a roster format. So you go, this would be the Yankees. Mattingly, a 54.2 in 1986. That's his batting runs, 2.1 speed. So it's just a different way to deliver it. And I have every season from 1940 to 2009, I have rated that you can purchase a decade at a time. So $20 gets you an entire decade of baseball, and you can play on base with that. And one of the other features, because I've removed the results, because I've taken the results from the card itself and put them onto a singular chart, I can actually go through and contextualize the charts because it's just now player ratings and values against a single chart. So I've contextualized this chart for the 80s, and I've gone through and just gone through every year, every season, and manipulated all of the outcomes to be able um, to match the percentages of all of these different outcomes. So as far as home run percentage, walk percentage for pitchers and for batters, I created a dice roller where I can roll 10,000 dice rolls if I want to, and then compare them. Over time, the percentages work out to doubles are about 2.7%, and everything else is about 5.5 or so percent. So that makes it a little bit easier to figure out to figure out where to put things and what percentages to put things on. But it's a little bit of a complex process, but I only have to create these decade engine charts once for each decade, and it creates, you can play 10 years worth of games off of this. And one of the really cool parts is that just like with the digital game that I made where you can play players across seasons, you could play the 1975 Red Sox against the 75 Reds using the 90s game engine chart, using the 90s sort of environment for playing baseball. So you could actually see how would these guys do if they were playing in the steroid era, that sort of thing. So I think that that's a really kind of a fun and neat way to do that. I've got a game engine chart here that's sort of the modern era, so the last several years. Um, More home runs, more strikeouts, that sort of thing. Everything that you would expect from sort of modern baseball. So the way that you play is you'll roll two d6 dice, and you're going to start on the pitcher side, and you have your 2d6 dice here. Again, one you'll designate for a ones digit, and one you'll designate for the one for the tens and one for the ones. And so you put that together. Let's say you roll a 12, and your pitcher. Hopefully you can see that. We have the FIP. Really, I'm using Sierra, but for older players, you can use FIP, FIP, which stands for Fielding Independent Pitching, which is it basically just takes defense and tries to strip luck out of the pitcher's performance, the pitcher's impact upon the game. Sierra does the same thing, but it incorporates a little bit more sort of human attributes into it. It's a little bit more advanced version of FIP. So anyone with a 475 FIP or more, you're going to use in this fourth column here. 425 to 475 is here. 350 to 425 is here. And then anyone from 0 to 350 FIP. And it's put on an ERA range. So just like a 350 ERA is a good ERA, a 350 FIP is you're like superstar level pitchers you're starting to get into. And so if let's say you roll a 12 and your pitcher is sort of a top line number one starter, you have a blank. And so if there's a blank, then you move to the batter side. And let's say we have a batter with a 30 plus batting runs. It was King Griffey Jr., right? He had a 40 something that we saw before. These are your perennial MVP type players, 30 plus batting runs. And so we had a 12, and then you look out here, and the result is a ground out with runners advancing. So if there are runners on base, it's basically a fielder's choice to first base, and all the other runners advance. If there's a runner at third with less than 2 outs, then that runner, would score, and you would credit the batter with an RBI. So it plays that smoothly and easily that you just start on the pitcher side and you go to the batter side. We also have several hint kind of things down here, or helpers down here, to help you to know what to do when there's an error check, or when stealing, or how to deal with sacrifice bunts and squeeze bunts. And there's some other, how do you decide which player is the one who catches the fly ball, right? That type of thing. So that is the basics of the game. And really, to play the game, you only need pieces of paper and either 2d6 dice plus a d10. The game actually uses a d9, which I didn't know when I made this is a really difficult die to find. But you can just as easily use a d10, and if you hit a 10, just roll it again. One of the other things, I am a web developer, so I have gone on and created these dice rollers. Hopefully you can see that okay. So these are free to use online, and what they do is whenever you hit the roll button, it rolls all of the dice for you. That way you can kind of speed up the game, and if you don't want to hear the noise or if you don't want to deal with just rolling the dice, it also makes it super portable, so you don't have to carry dice with you. You could probably play this game on a plane, an airplane. And so you have this. It works offline. Once you load the web page into the browser, it should work offline as well. So we can see on our first roll we have a 56. So we look to the left first, and the second so it's your 10s and 1s, and then you have a 9. So let's just play through a little bit. Hopefully everyone can see my scorecard here. Let's see. Let's get it like this. How about that? We'll start with the Astros first, which I know we shouldn't do, but just for the sake of playing. So we have the Astros. Let's say they're coming up in the bottom of the first inning. Max Fried is pitching. He's got a 331 Sierra, and so he is going to be pitching out of this first column here. So he's a top level pitcher, definitely top 5 Cy Young type player. Going for the Astros is Luis Garcia, 363. So he would be actually pitching out of this column here. So first up is going to be Jose Altuve. He's got a 26 batting runs, 4 on his defense and 4 on his speed. And let's go ahead and ignore this first roll. So let's start first with Fried. It's a 3-5 or a 35. So we check down here in this column to see the 35. The 35 is blank. And so we're going to go all the way across to the 35 for the batter. The batter is a 26. So he's in this column here from 10 to 30 batting runs. A 35 is going to be a strikeout. And so we can tell off of this number here, this is sort of a modifier die for a lot of things. And for strikeouts, it says a 1 to 6 on the D9 is going to be a strikeout swinging. 7 to 9 is a strikeout looking. It's one of those little details that you can add in or not add in. So Jose Altuve goes down swinging, and just like that, 1 out in the bottom of the first. So Brantley is up. Brantley is a 12 batting runs, -6 on defense and 3 on his speed. So the pitch from Fried is a 24. A 24, again, is a blank off of the pitcher card or the pitcher's side. And then a 24 for a 12 batting runs is either a double play or a strikeout. So if a double play exists and you can turn a double play, it'll be an automatic double play. If it doesn't exist, then it's going to be a strikeout. So a 7 this time, 7 to 9 is a strikeout looking. So back-to-back Ks for Fried in the bottom of the first inning as he gets Brantley looking. Here's another 35. We know that that's going to be a blank off of Fried. For Correa is a 25, and so I think that's going to be, let's see, he's a 25 and a 35. So we just sort of cross-reference his batting runs with the roll, and these rolls over here are the same thing. So that's going to be another strikeout. So 1, 2, 6 is a strikeout swinging, and again, so 3 up, 3 down. And let's say we're now on the bottom of the, we'll just stay here, the bottom of the second inning. And it's going to be Jose Alvarez. Alvarez is a 27 batting runs. So you read the lowest one first, so 23. And a 23 is going to be a blank for Max Fried. If we go to a 27, so 10, the column is 10 to 30 batting runs because he's a 27 batting runs. So we have a 23 that's going to be a ground out with a plus. Now, a ground out with a plus is an error check. You can see here the plus means an error check. So we roll the D9, and if the defensive value of the player, well, let's roll the D9 first. So we roll again. It's a 5. A 5 goes to the, I have it here. So on ground outs, a 1 to 6, you just match the position of the player. So a 5 is to the third baseman. So it's a ground out to the third baseman. We're going to do an error check to see if there's a play. If the player's defensive value is negative, then if we roll a 1 or 2 on this 9, then it's going to be an error. If its defensive value is positive, then it requires a roll of 1 to have an error. For Riley, Riley is a -1 defensive player. So on a 1 or 2, he's going to make an error. It's an 8, and so there's no error on the play. It's a ground out, and we're just going to go 5-3 on the put out like that. Gurriel is up, a 1-1. Okay, so there's our first chance to get something off of the pitcher side. And you can see because he is a stellar pitcher, he has a strikeout here. And hopefully you can see that pretty well. He's got a strikeout up here. So that's going to be another strikeout for Max Fried. The idea is that as I went back through and I did the research for each of these, I realized that low FIP pitchers were typically high strikeout pitchers and low walk pitchers. So you want to raise the level of the strikeouts, you want to lower the levels of the walks, and that's how the pitchers sort of balance things out in on-base baseball. So a lot of people would come to me and they were like, well, I wish the pitchers had a lot more influence in the game. And I thought, well, if you ran the numbers and you looked at the numbers like I did, and you sort of played the game out using those numbers to change the outcome, you'll realize that it doesn't take much to bring a pitcher from a 275 batting average on balls in play down to a 240. You only need a few plays here and there throughout the game to sort of bring that level down. And so there's a lot of subtlety in many of my games that people are like, well, it's kind of subtle, and you don't know that anyone is changing anything. But the reality is when you actually run the numbers, those players manipulating or modifying the play actually change quite a bit. But you got to play it out, for a long time. So we got 2 down now, and it is Tucker. Here's a 25. A 25 is going to be a blank off of Max Fried, and Tucker is a 34, so he's in this top category of 30 plus. You can see, Houston that year is loaded. Their top 6 players were all in these top 2 columns. So a 25 is going to be a flyout with a plus sign. So the flyout goes to 8, and we can see here on our flyouts if the D9 roll is a 7 to 9, then that goes to the right fielder. So you sort of think about the field 1 through 3, and then the middle section is 4 through 6, and then the right field section is 7 through 9. Right? It's kind of logical in the way I'm thinking about those things. So it's a fly ball to right field. The right fielder is Peterson, Jock Peterson. He has a negative rating on defense, and so he rolls a 1 or a 2 for an error, and he gets a 2 there. So that's going to be actually an E9 on Peterson. So that's kind of the easy way to do error checks in this game. Last one, 1-3. That's going to be a blank, and a 1-3 for, you can see Bergman is only a 5 batting runs. 5 batting runs is you're getting into average sort of territory. This column here is really an average batter in the major leagues, and this one is really a poor batter in the major leagues. You got mostly all-star players through here, and then you have your sort of MVP level players through here. And so this is going to be Bergman. A 13 for a player of his caliber is going to be a ground out. That's to a 4, so ground out 4-3, and that will be the third out of the inning. So Houston goes down after 2 innings. So that's really how it is. If you want to steal or take an extra base, you're really just rolling against the player's speed rating. So you're rolling this number over here. And if it's less than his or equal to his speed rating, then he's safe. If it's greater than his speed rating, then he's out. So sort of a simplistic, and this is one of those things that we were talking about complexity or not, complexity or gameplay. And for me, keeping the game rolling, the idea of on-base baseball was based off of dice baseball, like old school dice baseball with your friends. Maybe you played in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and you were just playing on the porch, and you were rolling dice and making up games, and it just kind of went fast. That's sort of the idea of on base, but we wanted to just expand that out to include pitching, hitting, sort of all the aspects of baseball itself. And lastly, one of the things that it's a design philosophy of mine, is to create games that are customizable. So it's really important to me. And as I'm a newcomer to the tabletop gaming community, so I'm looking at it with different types of eyes than a lot of people are, because it's all sort of brand new to me. So I'm listening to everybody, and I'm not saying, I don't want to listen to this guy. I know what he's all about. I don't have those kind of ears to tune people out. So I'm sort of listening to everybody. I'm listening to what people are wanting to do, and a lot of younger gamers, so guys who are 50 and under, but a lot of other older gamers too are looking for something that they can kind of customize or stretch or make into the game that they really want to play. So the game out of the box is fine, but one of the key components that I see all the time, people will say, I love this game, I'm going to go make it better. Almost every time they get a game, and then they're off to trying to make it better. And I thought, well, why fight against that? Why try to box people in so that they can't make it better or make it better for them? And instead, leave a little meat on the bone so that they can go and make the game that they really want to make. And so on base gives you a nice basic game to play, but I am totally not opposed to bringing in, if you think that another game has a great element for doing X, Y, Z, bring that in and incorporate it into the game and use this as the baseline game, and then bring other parts to sort of modularize your game and make it exactly what you want it to be. Bring in, if you want more detail in the base running area, bring in some base running from a different game and add that on to the system and kind of bolt it together, because the game works perfectly to be able to do that sort of thing. So that is actually a design philosophy of mine, and it's part of what I want to do with a lot of these games that I'm making. Does anybody have any questions about gameplay or any of the components?
What if somebody wants to steal?
If somebody wants to steal, let's say we had Tucker on base and he wanted to steal second. He is a 5 with his running rating. And let me pull up my application here. So what we want to do is we want to roll. We're going to hit roll. It's going to roll everything. But really what we're looking at is the D9. So if the D9 is equal to or less than his running rating, then he's safe. If it's greater than his running rating, then he's out. In this case, it's an 8, so he would be thrown out at second trying to steal after he got on with the error. So pretty simplistic running. Catchers are not figured into this, into the running game at all, neither are pitchers. So, but it does keep the game moving. It keeps it moving a lot, actually. Any other questions about gameplay or components? There is an on-base YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube and you look up on-base baseball, I've got hundreds of videos on there, not just for this game, but all the other games that I do. Some of the games I introduce there because I have more subscribers before I go out and make a full channel for another game. But you can, I've played a lot of on-base baseball there, and you can actually see how the game plays out over full 9 innings and things like that. With older teams, modern teams, I've played with all of them.
Ken's got a question here in the chat. He's
Okay.
wondering what do you find are a few things that gamers feel have to be in a sim for them to consider it?
This is a good question because I think a lot of gamers, well, not a lot, but some gamers who have YouTube channels and a little bit of presence in the community have actually been making these things known here lately about, I really want these things, or these are the kind of things I'm looking for in a game. I think overall, they want to have fun. They want it to be an enjoyable experience for them and not work. Okay, so that's one of the big ones. Some sort of realism or accuracy. It has to be within the realm of possibility. I think we all know, and Ron Juckett of the Digital Dice podcast, he always says, once you roll the dice the first time, every game is a fantasy game. Like no game is going to play out exactly like it did in real life. All the best you can do is put the teams on the field together, but as soon as you start rolling dice, everything is different, right? So going into it that not everything is going to be the same game by game, but you hope that over the long term, over the course of the game, that if you're doing a season replay or you're doing a series replay, that the people who are the ones who are supposed to hit the ball, the people who are supposed to make the outs, do all those things, they may not do them exactly like you thought, but in 68, 69, Bob Gibson should dominate hitters. He should have a lot of strikeouts. He should have the opportunities for a lot of shutouts. And if that's not happening and he's getting banged around, or he's got a 6 ERA after 12 starts, something feels wrong with the game. So that's the type of accuracy that I think a lot of people get kind of rankled about. If his ERA is 2.7 instead of 1.68 or whatever it was, are they going to get as upset? Probably not. Um, it doesn't have to be to the T for most people. And the reality is, as a designer, I can't make it that way because you're going to make different decisions than a lot of other people make. And the dice are just going to get hot or cold or roll this way or that way. That's kind of the reality of the situation. And I think if you have good math, which I've heard one gamer talk about, I want it to be good, solid math. And if you go through and you looked at all of the math for this chart, you would see that it's within a half to a quarter of a percent. Because I've gone through and simulated games on a spreadsheet that I created just to make sure for each type of batter that I'm getting into the realm of possibility for that batter. And it doesn't look like whenever you look between especially the decades, you look between them, you're like, I don't know where the differences are, but they're in there and they are being manipulated to be relatively close. So I think for a lot of gamers, they want to know how much time, how accurate is it, and is it fun? Those sort of the main three things that I hear people saying all the time. Oh, and lots of seasons. They want to have lots of seasons. So.
Hey, Brian, I was watching one of the videos earlier, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it was Quick Pitch, and that you use the deck of playing cards with. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, that's Quick Play. Okay, so that's Quick Play
Okay.
baseball. Yep.
I just thought if you want to run through that real quick, I guess what are the some of the differences. I thought it was kind of handy to just to have a deck of playing cards and be able to play a game rather than carry dice around. But
yeah,
I see that you've got the dice app on the phone, so that kind of eliminates or alleviates that issue. So
yeah, for me personally, having it on the phone is sometimes a faster gameplay. And also, some of my games have a lot of rolls in them, especially if they're very complex. So it'll actually save your wrist a little bit to, having to roll 200 times or whatever. It's a lot. So sometimes the digital games, plus it gives me a chance to just do what I do as far as creating web components and stuff like that. So this is really all you need. It all fits into a single box. You have a standard deck of cards. This is Quick Play, baseball. And this little sheet, it folds up into something about the size of a playing card. That is by design. And basically, this is your play-by-play chart. So this is for the post-steroid era. I sell this game in eras now. I used to sell it in seasons, but I've rated every single player, every batter with 30 plate appearances or more, and every pitcher in Major League, well, not Major League history, but from 1901 to 2022. And you can buy those eras. So usually between 15 to 17 seasons are in an era set. So we have the dead ball era, the live ball era, the integration era, which is like a 42 to 60, 61 to 76, I believe, is what the years are. That's the expansion era. 76 to 93 would be the free agency era. And then the steroid era is 94 to 2005, I believe. And then 2006 to 2022 is sort of your post steroid or modern era. I assume that we are beginning a new era of baseball just because of all the new changes in the pitch clock and things like that. That maybe it's going to be called the pitch clock era. I don't know. It's kind of a defining moment this season in baseball. So we have the post steroid era here for that would be 2006 to 2022. I've been replaying the 2023 Braves season this year. So going back through the first few games and replaying those. But you have each suit, and then you have each value on the suits from 2 to ace. So you have 52, because you have 52 cards in a pile, in a deck of cards. You have 52 results. So everything is roughly worth, 1.9%. So you can kind of quickly do the math as well on these. As you move toward the lower numbers, the advantage goes to the pitcher. As you go to the higher numbers, the advantage goes to the batter. And this is on purpose because each batter is rated a 0, a +1, or a +2. Each pitcher is rated a 0, a -1, or a -2. And based on that, you can actually move players up or down the chart based on how good a player they are. So if you have a +2 batter instead of a queen of spades being a single, it becomes an ace of spades, which is a home run. And that literally gives him, instead of a 2% chance of hitting a home run, it gives him a 6%, because he could have just as easily gotten a king or an ace, depending on what card he pulled. So you can see that it sort of helps to flip the advantage into or out of a batter or a pitcher. Same thing with a pitcher. You have a pitcher here who draws, let's say, a jack of hearts, and he's a -2 pitcher, so he's going to go down the chart and it becomes a 9 of hearts. So instead of a walk, it becomes a 6-3 ground out. So it actually helps those pitchers who are better pitchers. But for a 0 pitcher, which is someone with a 4 FIP or greater, then that would be a walk. So it's trying to get within the realm of possibility. This pitcher is better than this pitcher, and sort of get some grades into those. We have sort of a static strategy place chart. So basically, you decide, I want to steal second, flip a card. If it's a 6, or greater, then that's going to be safe. If it's a 5 or less, he'll be out. We have bunt hits, squeeze plays, sacrifice hits. And then we also have some rare and unusual plays. If you draw a joker from the pile, the way I do it is, if you have jokers that are 1 red and 1 black or something like that, then you can do a black joker for the batter, a red joker for the pitcher. All of my jokers are black. I don't have any red ones. So what I do is I just flip the next card, and whatever the next card is, if it's say a 2 of spades, then I'll read off the batter chart. If it's a 2 of hearts, I'll read off the pitcher rare place chart. All these are in favor of the pitcher. All these are in favor of the batter. And it just kind of adds a little wrinkle into a quick play game. So basically, you just flip, and whatever your outcome is, that's what your outcome is. So we got a queen of spades, and let's say it's just a normal batter, that's going to be a single. It has an asterisk So each of the runners, if they're on base, can get an extra base. It's like a long single, right, where you can take first to third type of deal. The next batter would be a king of spades, and so that would be a triple, and that would knock in the guy who was on base before. Let's see if we can find. Here's a queen of hearts. Let's see if the pitcher was a -1, which means his FIP is somewhere between 3.50 and 4, then he would be considered kind of a B level pitcher. A queen of hearts would turn into a jack of hearts. So instead of a single, it becomes a walk, which hurts the batter in some sense because he gets on base not helping his average, but via a walk, right? So that's how you play sort of the full play version. And I've got each of these. When you purchase an era, you can see this is the dead ball era. You see that there's no home runs on here. For the dead ball, you have to go to the rare play to get a home run. So there's some little differences and nuances like that. Obviously, a lot fewer strikeouts compared with the modern era. You can see there's was that 10 chances for strikeouts, only 4 chances for strikeouts on the dead ball era. So a lot more balls in play. Again, I love that I can play modern era teams with an expansion era chart. So a very similar concept to on base where you can do cross era play for the different teams. And so again, these are easily tucked away in a briefcase or your pocket. I don't know. I took them on a trip recently, a business trip, back in the spring, and knocked out a few games while I was at the hotel. And then there are actually 3 game modes for this. That's the full play mode. The quick play mode utilizes these, what I'm calling situation cards. So you can see these different cards have different situations on them. And basically what you do is to start a half inning, you flip the situation card, and this is going to be your situation to set up the inning. So in the quick play and the medium play game, there would be 1 out with no runners on base. Excuse me. It would be the second batter from the last batter who batted, who would be at bat. And then if you were in the quick play or the fast play game, it's 1 flip of a card, and whatever happens for the half inning. So you can play a game in maybe 5 to 7 minutes. If it's a face card, that's going to be well, you would separate out your face cards. There's a whole sort of system to set up your cards. I don't have them set up right now, but basically from a 4 to a 10, you have 2 4s, 2 5s, 2 6s, all the way to 2 10s. If you draw a 10, that's a hit. And then if it's a hit, then you draw a face card. And based off of what type of face card it is, that's the kind of hit. So a queen would be a double, king is a triple, ace is a home run. If you draw a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then that's an out. So you either get a hit or you get an out, and then that ends the half inning for your team. If you get a hit, let's say I got a double, but nobody was on base, obviously that puts me here at second base. I didn't knock anybody in. Therefore, there's no run scored for that inning, even though you got a hit. So there's a little bit of kind of, oh, no, it was so close. So there's some fun things to be had with that. It's a really easy and quick game to be able to play, especially with youngsters, or to just try to bang out a game by yourself. And on the medium play game, the only difference is you start with this inning here. You have these plays here. These are all the plays that led up to this situation. So there was a single to left. There was a fly ball to left that was an out. There was a double to left center. And then there was a strikeout. And that's how we got to 2 outs with runners at second and third. And then basically you would use your play-by-play chart and play out the entire rest of the inning. So you go through and you fill out your scorecard with with the plays that happened before. and then you could play out the rest of the inning. That was one of the things that people, gamers wanted me to add in early on. Sorry about that. They wanted the ability to play out the rest of the inning. So any other questions? Sorry about that.
You said you're working on the was it Baseball Manager, the online game? I'm not sure if that's the working title or I know you mentioned you had a couple different online versions, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you'll eventually it would be that folks could compete against each other in games online and draft different teams, that sort of thing?
You know, that would be I'd have to bring somebody on to be able to do that kind of thing. I don't know that I have the skill to be able to do that, but I would love to have one or two people to be able to build these things out with, because I'm pretty good on the design side and pretty good on the concept side. But as far as databases and backends and things like that, that's not my expertise. I know about them and I could probably struggle my way to build them, but it would be a lot better if I had just someone who would be able to be a software engineer and be able to bring those things together with sort of the front end things that I can make. So right now it's a little bit out of my expertise to do that. I've yet to figure out how to get stats persistently and things like that. So it's just a little something I've been banging away at for years, and I'm closer. I understand more about what I'm doing as far as how the game looks and plays and things like that. But as far as data, I really just need somebody or a couple of people who would be able to come on and help to create that back end so that that could actually happen. So I was just before I went into coughing, this game actually has 3 game modes. One is this quick play version, one sort of a medium play, and one is a full play version that instead of rolling dice, you're just flipping cards. But it's the very same, similar type of action as any sort of dice game. And again, it all fits, it all fits in the size of a box, right? So they're all US playing card sizes. So it neatly fits into here, and you can take it anywhere and play an entire game with the sheet of paper and this. Online, when you buy an era, I reveal the secret of how to go and rate players yourselves. So you can do that if you want to, but I've done all the work of rating the players, and it's $10 for like 15 to 20 seasons. So you're literally paying like 60 cents a season for every rated player, including the Negro Leagues, which I have a special for the Negro League. So if you do, I'll give you $5 off if you buy the live ball and the integration era sets. That includes the entirety of the Negro League. So from 1920 to 1940, I want to say it's 48 or 49. You would get the entirety. So all batters with at least 30 plate appearances and every single pitcher that pitched in the Negro League. So I thought that was a really cool way to bring those things together. And if you put those both in your cart, you get $5 off.
So Steve's just posted here in the chat. Have you tried something like the 27 Yanks against the 42 Cards?
Yes. And there are some videos that I have on the YouTube channel where I do play those teams against one another. The beauty of Sabermetrics, and this is in some ways why they were created, why these numbers were created, was to be able to compare players across eras, to settle some of the debates that we have. Is this guy better than this guy? I don't know. And using statistics that are leveled, we can sort of put them on the playing field, so to speak. so that a 20 batting runs player in 1928 is the same caliber of a player as in 1998. The differences would be about how they get to that number. How do they get to the slugging percentage? One guy is going to be hitting a lot more over the fence, and one guy might be running around the bases a lot more. Um, but the reality is that as far as a batter, they are equivalent batters, and that's how I can get away with using one chart for all of the different players, because they're leveled out, so to speak, by their sabermetric numbers. So that was something that was really important to me early on, and really one of the reasons I wanted to do uh, kind of a sabermetric experiment with getting into making these games.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Brian?
Any other things you want to see on the tabletop? If not, I can flip the camera back to my face. Maybe it's better just looking at the tabletop. Did we cover all the questions in the chat?
Yeah, everything in the chat's covered.
Okay.
Just cognizant of time too. I mean, we're already into an hour and a half, which I think, Brian, you could demo these for hours upon hours, I think.
I could, and they're not
with so many games and everything.
They're not my babies, but I feel like they're games I'm proud to have made. You know what I mean? I'm glad that they're out there. I'm glad that they're a little bit different than maybe what you've seen. And just very quickly before we end, as someone new to the territory, as someone creating games today and not creating games in the 70s or 80s or the 40s or 50s or whatever, one of the most difficult parts for new game designers, and there are quite a few because of COVID in some ways, and just because people are more interested in these types of things and finding tabletop games, one of the difficulties is finding outlets, finding media outlets, finding places to be able to advertise or talk about your game or get it out. I meet gamers all the time who are like, I didn't even know your game existed. I just like stumbled across it on Facebook. And I don't think that this is a proper media outlet, but are there magazines? Are there places really that you can advertise? Those things just don't exist. That infrastructure doesn't exist like it did maybe in the 70s or the 80s, when a lot of guys really started playing games and they were being advertised to in places where they were looking all the time. But social media makes a lot of things possible, but it also makes it kind of difficult to be able to do one at a time marketing in a lot of ways. So more media outlets, more people, YouTubers on YouTube who are playing the games in front of people, just so that they can show them. It would be helpful to game designers, because there are some great games out there that people just don't know much about, and you really just have to dig around and hope that you find a needle in a haystack on YouTube or online on a blog or something like that. So I would love to be able to do more, but you can only do as much as you can do, right? And these are great opportunities. So I really thank you for the opportunity to be able to show some of these games.
Yeah, I have really no clue where people would find things. I mean, I used to see advertisements, in my case being from Canada, in the hockey news and things like that. And I know they probably existed in, Baseball Digest and all those others. But yeah, I could see your point. It's tougher to figure out something that isn't like a video game now, and where to put it and how to get it out there. Yeah, I can see your point. But you've got an audience of about 15, and then it goes out, and I'm not sure. Derek probably knows how many people go and watch our videos late. He keeps track of that kind of stuff for us. But just a few. We got a quick question in here.
Okay.
Matt Keever's wondering, what is your philosophy behind your designs? He likes your clean and minimalistic look of your stuff.
Well, it's good to see you, Matt. I'm glad that you did come. Matt is a fellow young designer. He and Craig Harris made a game together, Pocket Pin and Run. So I really appreciate Matt and his friendship in all this. I did in my presentation, I actually have my design philosophy, so I'll just run through it just super quick. Ease of play, using advanced stats everywhere that I can use them, having different gameplay modes, and then making the game customizable. I think through the demos, you've been able to see really what my philosophy is. And, really just, I've talked about it a little bit, take as much off of the gamer's plate as possible so that the game itself gets out of the way and the sport is what is left. So you feel like you're either watching or playing or making managerial decisions in a game. And ultimately, if I can leave gamers with the residue of some sort of tension or emotion, I think that the game has transcended the tabletop. And now you're sort of transported. We heard that before, talking about being kind of transported back to that time or into that game where those players are playing. And using advanced stats is really important again because you can consolidate player abilities into a singular number, just like batting runs. It brings together a lot of different types of counting stats into a singular number that tells you this batter is better than this batter, or this batter is better than this batter. And so I use those stats kind of because they're cool and new and I like advanced stats, but also because they're very useful when you need to consolidate the number of roles or you need to consolidate your values. It's really important to be able to consolidate a lot of information into one single number that you can roll against. Gameplay modes is just something that a lot of people have asked for. Maybe today you don't have time to play a long game, but you do have time to play a quick game. Maybe you want to incorporate sort of quick and long. You want to play your team with a long play game, but you want to do all the other teams with a quick play mode. It just kind of gives you the options to do some really interesting replays more than just rolling and getting a score, if that makes sense. And then making things customizable. Don't box in gamers. Give them some freedom to be able to create the game that they really want to play. And I've also found that if you decrease the learning curve, it helps to increase the adoption of the games. So that's a part of it too. So we want to be able to increase the adoption of the games and not make it so complex and difficult that you're not able to break in, so to speak, and get your game in front of people. But creating intentional gaps so that they feel like they have the freedom to create the game that they want to. So those are sort of the 4 fundamental pillars of my own gaming philosophy, and you'll see it sort of pop up all over the games that I'm in or that I create. Thank you for the question, Matt.
Sorry about that phone. One of my kids calling. Anyway, not seeing any other questions. I'll call out. Anybody have anything else for Brian? Okay. So Derek and I are both planning to be in Chicago. This is our last conference call, I believe, or Zoom meeting before Chicago. Some neat things happening there, even if you're not coming to Chicago. Keep watching Facebook and are you putting stuff on the WordPress page too, Brian or Derek?
Yeah, it's on our on our website, on Twitter, on Facebook. So we'll try to keep everybody up to date.
It's a fantasy using a game, one of the computer games, a fantasy play down or something. I haven't signed up because I think most people be playing in the evenings, and I'll probably sneak out to go see a certain team that's visiting the White Sox while I'm there, that I don't get to see very often, but have a few jerseys of them. But we've got that going. We've got a great panel coming in. I think we've done some good things. You know, unless somebody wants to jump up and take over, Derek and I have both said we'll stay on for another year and keep going and try to keep giving this thing some life. Thanks for the thumbs up, Steve.
If I can jump in for a second, Mark.
Yep.
Just real quick, so the tournament that we're doing, you can register for that whether or not you're going to be in Chicago. It's all online. It's on the Dynasty League Baseball website. And I have the instructions to register and sign up for the tournament out on our events page. It's a 64 team tournament, all-time teams. So you register for the website, you wait for an email back from them, and then you can log in and you can sign up and select your team. So that's going to run on Thursday the 6th, I believe, late afternoon into early evening. So we don't step on the trivia contest. Kind of tough to wedge in everything there, but so that's going to run on the Thursday, and our committee meeting with the discussion panel is also on Thursday from 12 to 1. So the other thing I wanted to mention was we're going to have a presence in the exhibitors room. We've got several of us that are going to display various video games dating back to the 1980s. I have one of our members is going to bring in some electronic handheld baseball games. So what I wanted to do at this point is just to reach out if anybody is willing to volunteer. If you're going to be in Chicago, if you're willing to volunteer and bring in any items from your collection, whether it's tabletop, board games, video games, so forth. We do have a table Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 9 to 5. And the other request I have is if we have any volunteers to man that table for an hour or two, so that some of us who are at the table can maybe go and check out some of the speakers and other things going on. So just thought I'd put that out there, but yeah, we're looking forward to the convention and hope to see some of you guys there.
The fantasy thing is free, by the way. There's no charge, no cost. So, you know, you can feel like you're part of at the convention if you're not there. You know. Oh,
also, if you register for that now, you can play up through July 6th. You can play on their site for free. You can play in. They run 3-4 tournaments a day, so you can play and just kind of get a feel for how the game works.
So, and all that's on our both our Facebook and our webpage, right, Derek? I know
that is
Steve
correct.
Was asking for the site. Yep. They're there in both places.
Yeah, Facebook group, yes, website, Twitter. I'll post it again probably in the next few days, and we'll probably send another email blast out as well.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Brian. Man, I don't know how you have the time if you've got kids, you know, to share what FX Flynn said to us in the last meeting. You know, any profits, any money you're making on this better be going to your spouse if you want to keep them.
Definitely is. Yeah.
You know, that was I found that very funny last time.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else?
Steve was asking for the website. I assume that's if you're asking for baseball, saberbaseballgaming.com. And then if you click on the events page, I'll throw that in the chat window here too, just before we drop out of here.
Okay.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And, you know, if you're in Chicago, make sure you come up and talk to us. You might have to remind me, hey, I was on this one. Okay.
Derek, I'll be in Chicago, so I'll try to help you out with the tables.
Oh, that would be great. And like I said, you know, if you guys are going there, if you have any, you know, anything, board games, tabletop stuff, anything you know, that you'd be willing to share at our table, that would be amazing. We kind of, you know, want to show the attendees, you know, the variety of games that are out there. So.
Yeah, I still get the sense that a lot of, well, not a lot. Some of the members don't think this is real research or real stuff, and it is. It is. I shared with Derek some of the responses I got back being turned down again, and it was obvious they weren't understanding what I was trying to do. That's on me. But anyway, yeah, it's not traditional research and it's not traditional stuff, but it's definitely baseball.
And is the team that you're excited to see the St. Louis Cardinals, which will be there in the weekend?
Well, they will be there on the Friday, but the Tuesday to the Thursday, there's a different team going to be there. So
Different color bird.
that I need to see.
And if I may, before we adjourn, and to Derek's point, that a long time ago when we were having the Great American Fantasy League All-Star game at one of the conventions, some of you may know Ty Waterman, who organized that league. Bill James was watching it, and he suggested that, like when we were talking about forming a committee, he suggested calling it at that time the Games and Simulation Committee. So I thought that history that some of you might know about is worth thinking about, that's kind of where all this started in terms of discussing what we've been discussing tonight.
And if you keep up with what Stratomatic and App are doing, they are actually making some transitions and turns as well toward using their data. I don't know if it's only for gambling or whatever, but it's for simulating for the purposes of putting that out into the real world to be used, either by the general public or by teams or whoever. So they consider their own data, their own simulations to be sophisticated enough that they can put it out into the world. And that's sort of the turn that they're making, that not many people in the gaming world understand what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. So it is very real.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of his name. And I think he works with Minnesota, or had worked with Minnesota, mentioned last year at SABR at the convention how team he was working with uses it, uses simulations. Pretty much they all do. And it's to help coaching, it's help players, it's help teaching. And, you know, it's, you know, the what if. And that's what it's all about. It's definitely, and quite frankly, the whole thing of analytics that SABR has brought, sure, it's changed baseball, but it's, you know, as a CPA, it's changed the world. And I don't think people realize that, you know, Sabermetrics has changed everything, and businesses using the analytics and things as they are. And it was brought in the forefront because of Sabermetrics. You know, but anyway, that's a whole different discussion we could spend hours and another evening on, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, I think I'm gonna adjourn this. Derek, I'll give you last word if you want it.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. Again, Brian, thank you so much. It's a really amazing amount of development that you've done in the 4 years since you started. So I was definitely happy to share that with the group here, and I'm sure everybody got a lot out of it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And I'll help out at the table also.
Perfect. See, if you can get anybody else to help us, that would be amazing.
Good.
Okay, night, fellows. I know
Night.
there's a lot of games on tonight,
Night.
so get to bed early.
All right. Good night. Thank you all.
Good night,
Bye
everybody.
now.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you.